Martin Celebrity Roast, coming to you from the MGM Grand Hotel in the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Ladies and gentlemen, from the beautiful Ziegfeld Room, tonight's star-studded roast has brought together some of the world's greatest entertainers. They've come from all over the world to be here tonight, here in Las Vegas, in person. Joining Dean Martin as he honors tonight's very special Man of the Hour, George Burns. With tonight's guests, Gene Kelly, Connie Stevens, Don DeLuise, Red Buttons, Ronald Reagan, LaWanda Page, Abe Vigoda, Jimmy Stewart, Milton Berle, Tom Dreesen, Don Rickles, Orson Welles, Phyllis Diller, Jack Carter, Frank Welker, and your roastmaster, Dean Martin, with tonight's Man of the Hour, George Burns.
Tonight we salute our man of the hour, Mr. George Burns. We are honoring George tonight by special request. His. Though George is recognized as one of our truly great comedians, he'd rather be recognized for his singing. Fact is, he started out as a singer. I don't want to say when he started singing, but that was the year the top 10 was the 10 Commandments. You ever hear a voice like his? He sings like he makes love. Slow start and no finish. You're the worst when it comes to singing. You're the worst. Last month, he sang the Star-Spangled Banner at a ball game, and the crowd sat down. Well, he's truly amazing for a man his age. To give you an idea how old he is, in 1905, George was going through puberty. Something John Denver hasn't done yet. He's so old, when a girl invites him up to her apartment and asks him to bring a bottle, he brings Geritol. But he's still in there swinging. I mean it. When George checked into the hotel last night, we gave him the room between Connie Stevens and Ruth Buzzi. But just to be on the safe side, we didn't tell him which is which. Funny thing, but women are always fascinated by George. Even when George was a kid, he had a lot of charisma. And then he started dating girls, and his charisma cleared up. What a career this man has had. Vaudeville, radio, television, and before all that, he made a picture at MGM with Eleanor Powell and Robert Young. This picture was called Honolulu and was made in 1939. I want to say Honolulu, well, I won't say it was bad. It was horrible. But 3 years later, it was shown in Japan, and Pearl Harbor was attacked. Milton Berle is an example to all young people who want to go into show business. Hard work, perseverance, and discipline. All the things you need when you have no talent. A comedy giant. And I ain't kidding, Mr. Milton Berle.
Ladies and gentlemen, on with our homage to our guest of honor. When they told me God was going to be here tonight, I said, no way, Sinatra's too busy. But it's a great thrill, I'm speaking loud so you can hear me. It's a great thrill for me to be here tonight to honor George Burns, who after 60 years in show business finally made it. There he is, Mr. Lucky. Look at him sitting there. You don't know this is a roast. He thinks he's having sex. I'm only kidding, George. I'm kidding. You're beautiful. You look just like you did 40 years ago. Old. George is at the age now where if a girl says no, he says thank you. This man's back goes out more than he does. That's the truth. The other day I gave him a copy of The Joy of Sex. He took out his crayons and colored it. I don't know if this is true, George, but I heard that Burns is giving up smoking because he doesn't have the strength to flick his bait. Last night, George took a girl up to his room here at the hotel, and when they left, he noticed a sign on the door, "Have you forgotten anything?" And George said, "Yeah, how?" I love this man, George Burns and I. We go back a long time together. I don't know if you know this, but George, I'll tell him, is of Polish heritage. His grandfather was half Polish and half Jewish. He was a janitor, but he owned the building. I'll tell you why I'm glad I'm here tonight, Dean, because George and I, we played in vaudeville years ago when he was doing a single before Burns and Allen, and boy, shall I tell them a few places, towns we played? We played dumps you never heard of. Small towns like Rachmunis, Illinois. Split Lip, Nevada. Marijuana, New Mexico. Boy, that was a drag. And, we played towns we played one town was so small, the local hooker was a virgin. And I was listening to the king here, Dean Martin here, and he was talking about the singing and everything, but the act he did a comedy act, the worst act I ever heard. His jokes were so bad, I wouldn't even steal them. I like to repeat, as Berle usually does. I like to say that I'm very, very happy for my pal's success. Boy, what a beautiful life. George is leading right now. He's lunching every day at the bistro in Beverly Hills, dinner every night with a gorgeous young chick. He's already won an Oscar. He's written a best-selling book. And he gets offers from every movie studio in town. Oh, God. I can't wait till I get old. Love you, George. Love you.
No Diller. Hey, Vigoda.
Well, thank you, Dean. I suppose I should say it's a great pleasure to be here tonight, but it would be a lie. I'm an old, tired man, and I should be home in bed. Alone. In all the years I've been watching television, not once was I able to stay up for the late show. Recently, I've been falling asleep during the early show. Last week, I could hardly make it through News at Noon. And every time I come here, it never fails. Dean keeps telling me I must see one of those shows, you know, where they have tall, beautiful chorus girls all running around topless. Just sitting there ringside, you could get silicone poisoning. George, you've got to slow down. Stop hanging around nightclubs. Stop dancing in discos till all hours of the morning. You're no chicken. And for what I hear from those girls you've been dating, you're no rooster either. Dignity. Ah, that's what a person of our years must maintain. Dignity. It's not dignified to try to give them a hickey with your gums. Believe me, George, this new movie career of yours might be exciting and make you seem attractive to young women, but it won't do a thing for your love life. No, no. I don't care what part you played in your last picture. No girl, after winding up a big night with you, is going to say, "Oh, God."
I dreamt I was in heaven last night and I was talking to God. He sneezed and I didn't know what to say. Always a pleasure having Gene Kelly with us. He's a total performer with impeccable credentials. A dear friend, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gene Kelly.
Thank you, Dean. It's a great pleasure to be here and honor my old friend George Burns, and you know that. But frankly, I am a little surprised that I was invited because, it's not that George and I are feuding, but, well, I'm glad we're not. Particularly after seeing the supernatural things he does in his latest movie, Oh God. I wouldn't want to pick a fight with him for the world, because I don't want it to rain in my room 40 days and 40 nights. A little while back, George was starring in his own television special, and he asked me to be one of his guests. He wanted me to recreate a scene I did in the movie An American in Paris. That's the one where I sang and danced on the banks of the Seine with Leslie Caron. Well, I thought it was a marvelous idea, and I was all for it until George suggested that instead of doing the Gershwin song, I do one of his old tunes, the kind he used to do in vaudeville. And that was the bone of our contention, right? Well, I brought along the lyric to the song George wanted me to do, and I'll let you, the audience, be the judge. I have it right here. This is what George wanted me to sing. When the monkeys do the monkey rag, you think each monkey was on a jag. You laugh until your sides would crack when they curl their tails and wiggle their back. Good song. Well, George, if I'd have sung that to Leslie Caron, I'm afraid she'd have thrown me right into the sand. But tell me the truth, George. Are these things really songs?
Of course. I gotta get up to tell you this.
Or have you been smoking the pan on your cigar? I don't know.
Gene, they're good songs, but you can't recite them. So you gotta sing them. Now, here's a great song. If you just recited it, it's nothing. Just did the lyric. But listen to this. When the evening sun was sinking, I've been thinking of my little log cabin home. I was never meant for president, but you can bet I'll be content to stay there never.
George, you're right. You're right. You're right. With a melody, it's a smash.
You know, Gene, when I sang that in vaudeville, people were standing outside the theater.
Too bad none of them went in.
Was Al Jolson a great entertainer?
Oh, he's the greatest.
Well, I gave him this song. Two sweethearts in the country town, the neighbors say, lived happily the whole day long. Until one day Jolie must go away. She went of them what could go, and Jolie loved it.
No wonder he got down on one knee. He was begging you not to make him sing it. I'm sorry. Even though you wouldn't let me sing Gershwin on your television special, tonight I'd like to borrow some Gershwin lyrics to express my feelings for you. And I mean this. In time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay. And George, you know I truly love you.
You're sweet, Gene, but I'm a little too old for you.
Our next guest is someone who has known George Burns for years and years. In the early days when George first began his show business career, this lady was his accompanist, his teacher, and his very first vocal coach. Please welcome the vivacious Gladys Ormsby.
What did I do? Look at you, sitting here so smug. How dare you pretend you're innocent? Smug, I said smug. Last night this wino cornered me at a bingo game and tried to do a number on me. Tonight the world is gonna find out about you, George Burns. Tonight, I'm going to tell them the truth about you. Tonight, I am going to let it all hang out. Oh, George, put that glass down, George. The shabby way you treated me. I remember how it all began. I was given piano lessons on the Lower East Side of New York. Then one magic night, he came in, George Burns. It was love the moment our eyes met, wasn't it, George? The first time I saw him, I had a lump in my throat.
That's more than I can say for your chest.
Hey, quiet! Soon our romance developed, ladies and gentlemen. But I discovered that George wasn't the greatest lover in the world. In fact, he had a mean streak in him. Most men will cover your face with kisses. He covered mine with a burlap bag. So I am here tonight to say to you, George Burns, and to the world, that tonight our romance is over. George Burns, I am turning my back on you.
Don't face me! couple of names that always represent quality, like Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, Tiffany, Cartier. In Hollywood, one name that's always been pure gold in the box office is that of my old buddy, one of the original superstars, Mr. James Stewart.
Thank you, Dean. You know, George Burns and I go back together a long time. We were both at MGM Studio at the same time in 1938. And in those days, I was a romantic juvenile, and in those days, George Burns was an old man. And it's just amazing that now, 40 years later, we're both still at it, only now I'm the old man and George is the romantic juvenile. When we first met in 1935, I was trying to make it on Broadway, and George was like a father to me. He gave me my first professional advice. He said, "You'll never make it in show business, kid. You've got no gimmick." And then he offered to sell me his old vaudeville act. And he said he'd even throw in his special tuxedo. And what made the tuxedo special was it had rubber-lined pockets. And when I asked him what the rubber-lined pockets were for, he said, "That's where you keep the fish." And I wondered why I'd want to keep fish in my pockets, and he said, "Listen, kiddo, when you're working with a seal, you've got to slip him a fish every once in a while to keep him happy." Yeah, George was going to talk his old vaudeville partner into coming out of retirement. "Sharky the Seal," he said. "You and Sharky, you're just going to make a wonderful, wonderful comedy team. Sharky plays the musical horns, Harold plays the drums." And I said, "Harold?" He said, "Yeah, that's the chimpanzee." When I asked George what I did in the act, he said, "You throw the fish in bananas." Anyway, George wouldn't give up on me. He said, "Listen, kiddo, I'll get you a lead in a movie that will win the Academy Award. But it calls for a virile he-man and looks good without an undershirt. So go down to the gym and build yourself up, and I'll recommend you to the director." Well, he was right. 5 months after I started working out at the gym, the picture did win an Academy Award for Clark Gable. It's called It Happened One Night. And when I asked Clark how he got the role, he said George Burns recommended me. The next time I saw George was in 1946. I'd been nominated for an Oscar for It's a Wonderful Life, and I lost. But George came up to me, like the good friend he is, and he whispered something encouraging. It was a very good advice. He said, "I told you you'd never make it in a show business until you had another talent on the side, like Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire." So George, who used to be a hoofer, tried teaching me one of his dances, Ball and the Jack. And he said, "First you put your two knees close up tight," and I did. And then I said, "What next, George?" And he said, "I don't know. At my age, when I take them apart, I fall down."
We got a lot of friends of George. They're all up here to talk about his talent and his show business career, but nobody knows him better than our next guest. Ladies and gentlemen, George's personal psychiatrist, his head man, Dr. Leo Kellerman.
Thank you very much. May I show you my credentials?
Oh, may I show you mine?
No, no. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a noted psychiatrist, and George Burns first became my patient right after he finished his new movie, Oh God, in which he plays the title role. Very few people know this, but he got very wrapped up in it. He thought he really was God. It's true. This syndrome is not uncommon among actors. When Jimmy Stewart was in Harvey, he thought he was a rabbit. Fortunately, he came to me.
Did you cure him?
No, not before he and his wife had 78 kids. As I was saying, when George came to me, he thought he was God. The first thing he said to me when he saw my nurse was, I want to cure that girl. I must lay hands on her. I said, George, she's not sick. It wouldn't help. He said it wouldn't hurt. I am an expert in these matters. I have degrees from Vienna, Paris, and Rome. Vienna, 68 degrees. Paris, 72 degrees. Rome, 82 degrees and rising. When George came to me, I asked him how long he had been God, and he said, 40 days and 40 nights. Do you remember that? It figures. And I said to him, any other problems? He says, yes. I can't sleep. Can you help me? I can't sleep. I said, George, did you sleep last night? He said, no. I said, did you sleep the night before? He said, yes. I said, it's very simple. Go to bed every other night. You know, psychiatric treatment is nothing to be ashamed of. I myself have catatonic phobia.
Ah, wear a long coat. Nobody will know.
In Vienna, I taught psychology. I thought it was easy, but it was very hard. Are they coming? Are they coming? I mean, wait, right. After 15 hours, by the way, George, you know, we worked together. Well, we worked together a long time. And I have to tell you that he is suffering from traumatic psychosis and paranoid aberrations.
What's that mean?
His shorts were too tight. He's a wonderful man. My wife was your daughter in the Sunshine Boys. She sends you our love. Thank you very much for being you. Thank you, God, for sending her this wonderful man. Thank you.
Next guest is a very talented and very funny lady, one of the former stars of Sanford and Son, and I think she is the best in the whole world. She's lovely. She's beautiful to me, Miss LaWanda Page.
What a thrill it is for me to stand here between these two turkeys. Let me see who this turkey is. Oh, the Sunshine Boy. And the Moonshine Goer. I heard what you said, Milton Berle. Don't you go bad-mouthing me. You've done as much for comedy as Edie Amin. Last time I saw your show, it was during the New York blackout. Honey, your show was so bad, my friend smashed the window of a TV store and returned their TV sets. And you, Phyllis, Diller. Have mercy. I hear you whispering. You ain't got no right to talk about my looks, honey. Oh, I'll admit when you walked in tonight, you turned a few heads. And a few stomachs, too. Look at Abe Vigoda sitting there so cool. Abe played in The Godfather. In that movie, they gave him the kiss of death. Abe, honey, you look so bad, they should have given you the kiss of life. Now I'm gonna get to you, George Burns. Dating all them young foxes at your age, a man as old as you, honey, should be respected, rewarded, retired, and retreated. George, you're too old to get married again. Not only can't you cut the mustard, honey, you're too old to open the junk. I know what I'm talking about, Mr. Burns. I was once married to an old guy myself, honey. When we faced the preacher, he didn't say I do. He said, I'll try. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Here is a bright young comedian who appeared with us earlier this year and was a big hit. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Dreesen.
I love George Burns, I really do. My grandmother is his biggest fan. She's been kind of upset lately because she hasn't been able to see him on TV for the last couple of years, till just recently, because, see, she's had problems with her eyes. She has glaucoma. And I don't know if you read this or not, but a guy started smoking marijuana a while back for his glaucoma, and it helped him. He took his case all the way to the Supreme Court, and today, the government allows him to legally smoke marijuana. So 6 months ago, my grandmother started smoking marijuana. She still can't see, but now she doesn't care. It got so I hated to go over her house. It was always the same thing. Hi, Tom, try the brownies. She wanted to send you some brownies, Mr. Burns. She really did. But she read this interview in a fan magazine by this lady that travels with you. What's her name? Nurse Trixie. She said that you think mashed potatoes are roughage. I want you to know that when I started out in show business, an old vaudevillian pulled me aside and he said, would you like to become a good comedian? And I said, yes. He said, well, then study the masters. Watch George Burns. In fact, watch his every move. Mr. Burns, I've been watching you all night long. You haven't moved once.
Thanks, Tom. I need a card to introduce this lovely lady. She is funny, and she is beautiful. And I love her. Miss Phyllis Diller.
Glory be, you did wake up. Oh, George, I'm just so happy to be here. Nobody knows what a thrill it is for me to be here with George, because, see, I've had a crush on George for years. He's my kind of guy. He's handsome, he's successful, and he's breathing. Oh, I don't know how you feel about it, George, but old age, I mean, I didn't even see it coming. It hit me from the rear. I got up one morning and it is over. Everything is gone. The hair on the top of my head is so thin, the part is on the roof of my mouth. I got a rash that's moving so fast I can hear it. My G string is clear down to D flat. And you know, as you get older, you get so damn dry and brittle. I may not pass on at all. I may just flake away. When you put your moisturizer cream on, your skin shouldn't go... You heard of water on the knee? Get ready. I have gas. But I wore this outfit just for you. Well, you know, I'm not going to wear feathers. The last time I wore feathers, I was attacked by an ostrich. You know, if I didn't wear contacts, I wouldn't know where I was. I could be playing the men's room. One night they let me. I didn't know the difference. The sound was good and it was cool. So sick of getting my bras back from the laundry marked flat work. You talk about flat. I got my chest sunburned and my back peeled. You want to know what else? I've had such rotten luck with men. I had this one guy. Oh, big, huge, hairy, dumb. Went ice fishing, came home with 50 pounds of ice. When his mother fried it, she drowned. But the reason I love George, he knows how to treat women. He just does, like backstage tonight. He whistled at me. Oh, how I loved it. Last time I heard a whistle, I was hit by a train. But George, I just want to tell you this. After the show, I know it's your night, but I'd love to share it with you. Somehow. We'll find a way. Come to my room if you want to see a real woman. I'll get one for you.
Here's a man who's kind of regular on our roast. One of the funniest guys I know. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Red Button.
Ladies and gentlemen, the question tonight is why? Why are we giving this ancient comedian, a man who was old enough to be his own father, a man who embarrassed everybody at the Last Supper by asking for seconds, a man who, when they signed the Declaration of Independence, asked for a Xerox copy, a man who, when Rome was burning, requested Nero to play You Picked a Fine Time to Leave Me, Lucille. So this is the type of man we're giving a dinner to here tonight. Some of the biggest people in the history of the world never got a dinner. Adam, who said to George Burns in the Garden of Eden, I got more ribs, have you got more broads? Never got a dinner. The hunchback of Notre Dame, who said this isn't a hump. I ate a cantaloupe and it backed up on me. Never got a dinner. Buddha, who said while contemplating his navel, it sure beats daytime television. Never got a dinner. Alibaba, who said to the 40 thieves, just steal jewelry. It's not easy to fence camels. Never got a dinner. The Siamese twin who said to his sister, what do you mean you go your way, I'll go mine? This man they give a dinner, Rip Van Winkle, who said when he awoke from sleeping 20 years, after lunch, I think I'll take a nap.
Never got a dinner Goliath's mother who said to Goliath, stop running around with David. You're always coming home stoned. Never got dinner. George never got a dinner. This man, they give a dinner. Cain's mother who said to Cain, after he sleweth his brother Abel, wait till your father comes home, are you gonna get it? Never got a dinner Lot, who said when his wife was turned into a pillar of salt, salt we got plenty, coffee we need. Cleopatra, who said to Mark Antony when she placed the serpent in her bosom, of course it's suicide. You think I'm trying to make out with a snake?
Mr. Orson Welles.
Dean, there's a foolish rumor going around that I really must scotch. Scotch, Dean. I hope I have your attention. No matter what they say, I refuse to believe that some suggestion of yours was responsible for the invention of the neutron bomb. It's ridiculous, of course. And yet, when you think of it, it's logical. Who else would want a weapon that could wipe out the bartenders without destroying the booze? As for our honored guest, he certainly deserves more respect than he's been getting here tonight. After all, how many men his age could listen to insults about their sex lives without the use of a hearing aid? All these slurs about George's amorous adventures, they remind me of the words of the poetess Elizabeth Barrett Browning. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. In your case, George, don't bother to count the ways, just count the times. The extremes these people have gone to just to come here. Now, Abe Vigoda even bought a tuxedo. Abe Vigoda in a tuxedo. That's like putting hollandaise sauce on a knockwurst. With red buttons. Red, whose mother once uttered those famous words to his father when Red was born, keep the sales slip, I think we'll want to return it. George, to err is human, to forgive divine, so let us forgive Milton Berle. We realize, Milton, that everything you said for laughs. The fact that you didn't get any, well, that's another one of your problems. As for you, George, in your long and glorious career, you've been the recipient of a perfect plethora of honors and awards. You've triumphed on radio, conquered TV, and headlined at the Palace. You've known presidents and kings. You, more than any living mortal, should be cognizant that there is something more exciting in life than women and sex. And whoever finds out what it is will make a fortune.
Tonight, I'd like you to meet a young man who is already recognized as one of tomorrow's bright new stars. Ladies and gentlemen, please greet a wonderful impressionist, Frank Welker.
The man that we're honoring this evening is deserving, I know, of this roast, but also I think he should probably have his own news documentary. So I would like to take you to New York and Walter Cronkite. Good evening, everyone. This is Walter Cronkite bringing you a special television tribute to George Burns entitled, Oh God, Not Again.
Tonight we pay homage to a man who's celebrating his 75th anniversary in show business. George owes much to the miracles of modern medicine. Just how much, only Medicare knows for sure. Through the miracles of modern medicine, George Burns still chases pretty girls. And through the miracle of modern psychiatry, he intends to find out why. See, when you're his age, the memory is the second thing to go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we take you to a man who's prominent in politics. Billy Carter's brother, Jimmy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity to say what a thrill it is to be here on this dais this evening. It certainly beats the House of Representatives. But I must say we do have some fine young comedians up there also.
There you have it from the 39th President of the United States, a very distinguished country bumpkin. And now it's time to go to another political figure. Here is Henry Kissinger. Henry? Thank you very much, Mr. Cronkman. I would like to take this opportunity to say that for 6 years, I was the Secretary of State. I adjudicated the world's problems. And when there was a crisis between the Arabs and Jews, I played the role of God and brought about peace. And now when Carl Reiner makes the picture, oh God, who should he pick for the part of the Supreme Being? This little Dummkopf, George. Thank you, Dr. Kissinger, spoken like a true American. Now we take you to the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali.
I'm the greatest. Ain't nobody as bad as me. I'll be George Foreman. I'll be Joe Frazier. I'll be Stunner List and that ugly old bear. I knocked him down. Kenny Lord, all these guys are in tables. All think they be. I'm the best. Ain't nobody in the whole world bad as me except maybe one man, George Burns. He's bad. This little wrinkled white hope. He's bad. Oh, I tell you, I wrote this poem by George Burns. Goes like this. He floats like a butterfly, sings like a bee, but the worst thing about him is that it sings off key.
Well, now we must eventually turn to our man of the hour, the superannuated star of Crystal Radio, George Burns himself. So in another dramatic confrontation, our British investigative reporter David Frost probes into the real reason behind George's break-in to show business. David?
You were once quoted as saying that if you were offered the role of God, that you indeed would take that role, even though you had some hesitation at this point in your career. Do you indeed feel that that's the way you felt, or prior to what you thought you said, or do you indeed feel that what you said earlier, prior to what you thought you had told yourself, that you indeed felt that that's what you thought you said prior to June 3rd, when you thought you knew what you did indeed say?
You know something, David? You talk as funny as I sing.
There he is, truly funny man, and I mean it. Jack Carter.
Oh, I thought you'd never get me up here. This became like a telethon for senility. What a thrill to be back at the MGM, this marvelous, beautiful hotel. And thank you, Dean, for the lovely room you got me here. It's a beautiful... It must be the presidential suite, because I walked in and there were peanuts all over the floor. At least you promised George glamour. Come to Vegas, George. We'll give you a dinner. There'll be beautiful showgirls, gorgeous women. All right, where's Anne Margaret? Huh? Where's Sophia Loren? Where's Farrah and her faucets, huh? Look what he wound up with. Ruth Buzzi and Phyllis Diller. Jaws and menopause. Oh, Ruth's over already, but Phyllis, you look beautiful. She with a new face and a new body. You really look great, considering you used to be Gregory Peck. Thank God Connie showed up. Connie loves to go with George. You know, she knows how to handle him. He's happy. Once a week, she gives him a tangerine, tells him he's making love. And he loves to go out to her pad in Malibu, and, you know, Connie gets into something sexy. George brings a little wine, and she walks around in this flimsy gown, and while Connie cooks, George burns. But he's adorable. Look at him sitting there. Only man in the world orders a martini with a prune in it. Dom DeLuise. Sounds like a Western. Dom DeLuise. Dom came over as an immigrant with his father. His father couldn't speak English. All he could say was his job. Diesel fitter. E fatto una mangiare, lo diesel fitter. So they sent him to the shipyard. No shipyard. Diesel fitter. Isn't that what you don't know? I work with my friend Angelo in a pantyhose. He hold up the pantyhose. I say, yeah, diesel fitter. I love George, and he remembers the first time he was on the bill at the Palace in 1904 with Al Jolson. He was just a kid with Gracie. Georgie was in shock watching him because Jolson never used a mic. He was the most powerful performer. He just stood there in the footlights with no mic, talking and dinging and talking and dinging, and people got to their feet in the last row of the balcony yelling, "Get a mic, Al. Can't hear a damn word back here."
Georgie went up to him backstage and said, "Hiya, Mr. Jolson. I'm George Burns. Gracie and I are on the bill. We're up early, you know. I'm a singer, too. And I want to say you got a great voice." And Joe said, listen, kid. I want to tell you something. I heard you sing, and I ain't heard nothing yet. Why, when I sing Mammy, you see the Mammy. And when I sing Swanee, you see the Swanee River. And when I sing Rockabye My Baby, you know what happens? George said, yeah, the mother shows up with a paternity suit. George, and I love to hang out with these great old guys like Georgie Jessel and George Burns and Jack Albertson and the aging veteran Milton Berle. I love it. We kid Milton. He's an inspiration to every young comedian. We figure if he can make it, anybody can. And I know that if your sweet buddy, Jack Benny, were here, I'll bet right now he's up there in that great dais in the sky, looking down, and he's smiling at you sweetly and saying, well, now isn't this a ridiculous situation? Here I am up in heaven and God's on earth.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former movie star, former governor, former presidential candidate, but still #1 in popularity, a most distinguished American and a good pal, Mr. Ronald Reagan.
Thank you, Dean. Among governors, you know, Dean has always been well thought of. The governor of Arizona even named a national forest after him. Petrified. Speaking at a Dean Martin roast is a lot like being a budget director for Jimmy Carter. It's kind of a temporary job. But I just couldn't turn down this opportunity to say a few words about our man of the hour. This bionic geriatric, Sun City Fonzie, George Burns. The only man I know who does fool Mother Nature. When Red Buttons appears on these roasts, he always asks the question, why are we giving this man a dinner? Well, Red, for the first time, I'd like to answer. Who else do you know who is an actual eyewitness to most of the history of our country? It was George Burns who told Betsy Ross, personally, I feel the pattern's a little busy. But let's run it up the flagpole and see if anyone salutes it. This is George Burns' night. Legend has it that when Queen Isabella gave Christopher Columbus all her jewels to finance his voyage, and he said, "But who'll buy all this costume junk?" It was George who said, "Leave it to me, I know just the guy." Sammy Davis Jr. is wearing it to this day. And who was it who told Judge Crater, "Slip away from the party, no one will ever miss you"? He remembers. George goes back to the invention of television, when TV sets were run on whale oil. He started with NBC TV. Where do you think NBC got the egg from which they hatched that peacock? But it's really as a comedian that George Burns will leave his mark in history. George has always entertained for presidents and has made 6 different presidents laugh. 6 out of 39 isn't bad. George, I toast you. May you still have that same youthful vigor when you finally reach, if you ever do, old age.
One of the most respected MDs in Beverly Hills, Dr. Charles Cooper.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Cooper, George Burns' personal physician. The first time I met George Burns, he came to my office with a terrible ringing in his ears. I cured him. I gave him an enlisted ear. It's all in my book. How to remove your appendix in your spare time. I once took care of Mr. Martin. I went to his home, and after examining him carefully, I found something on his chest. His secretary. By the way, Dean, try some of this medicine. You could use it. What? You say no. Thanks. Do you realize this medicine contains vitamins, minerals, niacin, potassium, iron, riboflavin.
Thanks.
It also contains 50% alcohol.
I'll have the bottle.
May I have your attention, please? This is a cow. This is an old cow. It's all in my book. Brain surgery, self-taught. Aha! 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 There's Abe Vigoda. He and I go back to medical school. He was my first cadaver. Anyway, Mr. Burns, all I got to say is to you, you need a physical. After the show, come to my room, remove your clothing. I'll take your pulse, your pressure, and your wallet. Thanks a lot. Callas.
I should say the next pretty lady to step up here is not only a star of television, Broadway, and the movies, but has appeared with our man of the hour on stage and screen. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the talented and lovely, beautiful Connie Stevens.
Thank you, Dean. This
This is an exciting reunion for me, I'll tell you. I have not appeared with George Burns for a long time. He and I co-starred in a television series, I hope you all remember. It was called Wendy and Me. You remember, do you remember? He doesn't remember. Well, it didn't last very long. I'm not blaming you, George. It was a good show, but I've had longer runs in my pantyhose. In the view of our past friendship, I was really surprised. When I arrived in Las Vegas last night, I found a beautiful bouquet of flowers in my hotel room. And a note from George Burns that said, "Dear Connie, please join me for a swinging evening on the town." Well, George, I hate to kiss and tell, but may I tell them what a swinging evening we really had? First, we went out to dinner. I picked him up right after his nap. It was then I discovered George's secret for staying young. He never overextends himself. He wouldn't even whistle for a cab. He figures when he finally gets up a pucker, why waste it on a taxi? We were driving along, and all of a sudden, George leaned over and said, "My leg's asleep. It's numb. I can't feel a thing." I said, "George, please, relax. That's my knee you're holding." On the way home in the cab, George got very confidential with me. He said, "Connie, I know I'm an older man and you're still young and innocent, but these are modern days. How do you feel about mixed couples? Getting together, you know, for a little fun." Turned out he wanted 4 of us to play the same Keno card. Anyway, when the evening was over, he escorted me to my room, and like the true romantic roue he really is, he surprised me with a burning kiss. He forgot to take the cigar out of his mouth.
With us tonight is that very funny star of the big hit TV show, CPO Sharky. Ladies and gentlemen, the national distributor of hate, Mr. Don Rickles.
Thank you so much. You know, many performers get an opportunity to perform, which is a great statement. But George, here at the home, these kind of things we can laugh at. I must say right in front, George, you're 81 years young. I'll give you $5 to marry my mother. I'll make it 10 if you fool around. There are many great stars here honoring George. As I look down the dais, I see none. LaWanda Page, you're a black woman. Why are you here? Be proud. Be proud of black or white. And I say this from my heart. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Is she laughing or coming towards me? George was laughing. I love you, George. And of course, Red Buttons, one of the great clowns of our time. Unfortunately, the public has never known that. Anyway, Phyllis Diller, ladies and gentlemen, who, when she was born, God ran out of clay and made her face trick-or-treat Charlie. But you're a lovely lady, Phyllis, and good luck to you. Her husband, her former husband, said on the wedding night, "No!" And James Stewart, one of our great generals in the Air Force, who said in World War II, and the planes took off without him. And of course, the great governor of the state of California, the former governor, and the man that was wanted to be president desperately. Governor Reagan, from the bottom of my heart, Governor, I never liked you, I never liked your family. Sit down, Governor, you're making a fool of yourself. And Dom DeLuise,
There's not much to say about you, Dom, because you got a bad personality. But getting to the punchline of the evening, 81 years young. George, if I may say, I sit with you at the Hillcrest Country Club, and we laugh together. You have always put your arm around me, your family, your dear Gracie, God rest her, wherever she is. She watches over you. We all laugh about you with the young ladies that escort you. But the greatest thing I can say, on behalf of my wife, my children, and my dear mother, that when you dress up with your tie and your sport jacket, and as you are tonight, neat and immaculate, and you get in your little car, in your big car, and I see you drive up in front of our country club with pride, and you get out and you walk abrupt and with life. That's what I believe in. And that's what I hope for myself and my wife and for my children, to have the feel of life, as my people say, chayim, to life, to have the feel that you have. You are a great man, and we love you, and I love you.